We're going to be talking about poverty in Brooklyn, but before that, we thought we'd bring you up to speed with some numbers and maybe even define just what poverty is, as if you didn't know. Poverty, in the sense of the federal guidelines where they officially define it, we look at the number of household occupants versus the money that comes into the household. So if you happen to be a single person and you're pulling in just under $12,000 a year, that means that you're right at the poverty line. Now, you look at a family of 3 or 4 and imagine that 3 people living on about $20,000 a year, or in the instance of 4 folks, if you get $24,000 coming into the house, you're at the poverty line. So we're going to bring it a little closer to home with our next slide and look at poverty in Brooklyn specifically and some of the major factors contributing to it. There's, of course, the lack of employment opportunities, domestic violence that drives people out of their homes, a decline in available public assistance, mental illness, and a lack of affordable health care. Addiction is also one of the major sources of poverty here. We're going to be looking at poverty in Brooklyn now, and there are about 600,000 people who are living in poverty at those guidelines that we set out earlier from the feds. And the #1 cause of poverty in our borough, as it stands now, is homelessness, unaffordable housing. Because, of course, we are the second most expensive place to live in the entire nation, following only our neighbors across the bridge in Manhattan. So that's a look at poverty in Brooklyn. Now let's get into the A block.
If you're walking down a Brooklyn subway platform, you may see black and white photographs of someone you know from your neighborhood. It's the One Brooklyn Community Campaign, representing the faces and voices of Brooklynites concerned about poverty and the ever-widening gap between the haves and the have-nots, those who can afford to live in Brooklyn and those who often find themselves out on the streets without a home.
That's right, and the supporters come from all walks of life as well. They're artists, entrepreneurs, philanthropists, and just regular community folk who want to see a Brooklyn for all, no matter your income level. And in a moment, we'll meet 2 of the people from the BCS Brooklyn Community Services, that is, who were behind this campaign. But first, here's a look at how it came to life.
Campaign is now becoming not just necessary, but very relevant to a broad scope of people. Because now we're not just talking about people in poverty, we're talking about artists and some of these tastemakers and people who want to start businesses and people who would love to be able to invest in Brooklyn and are now not even able to do that. And I think it is now hitting home with a broader demographic of people than we could have even anticipated. And I'm thrilled for that, because I really hope it helps people connect with the mission that BCS is putting forward of creating one Brooklyn community where we can all live and sustain ourselves in this borough that we love so much.
Well, I really hate this word gentrification that comes up a lot. I feel like real estate agents really like to use it. Or gentrification, I think, literally comes from the Dutch word for gentry, which means people of a gentle birth. So it's where gentleman comes from. And I feel like the assumption of that word is that this higher class is moving in. And I feel like the change in Brooklyn, although there are like cool coffee shops and record stores opening, people who've lived in communities their whole lives are being pushed out. And what I think is really great about this campaign and the work that's being done is ensuring that all Brooklyn residents have access to everything they need, all the social programs that they need, affordable healthcare, schools, housing, so that as Brooklyn continues to change, that everybody who lives in Brooklyn is taken care of.
I just want to talk about gentrification really quickly. It's not a black or white thing, it's an economic thing. And I think that when people come into new neighborhoods, it's our responsibility to be a part of that neighborhood, a part of that community. Speak to your neighbors. These are the people who made the neighborhood cool, which is why you even wanted to be here.
I am a little worried because Williamsburg is the hottest, newest place to live. It feels like just as expensive to live in Williamsburg as it does on the island. And I don't think there's enough low-income opportunities in Brooklyn. I don't think there's enough low-income resources. And I think that's one of the best things about one Brooklyn community.
One Brooklyn.
Okay, with us now are two of the folks from BCS, Sonya Shields, Chief Officer of External Relations and Advancement. Welcome to BK Live, Sonya. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
And Damion Samuels, Director of Workforce Development. Thanks for being here, Damion.
Thank you for having me.
We also have Jodie Patterson, a Brooklyn mother of 5, a businesswoman, a community empowerment advocate, and one of the people featured in the One Brooklyn campaign.
Hello.
Thank you very much for being here. Sonya, why don't we start with you? How did the idea for this campaign originally come about?
It was really sort of the intersections of the fact that, one, BCS has been working in poor and low-income communities for now 150 years. It's been sort of the major focus of our work. I mean, there's no organization that's probably been on the front line working with underserved neighborhoods more than BCS. The other piece was for me and my department was we were just sort of seeing that the media was glossing over poverty and packaging these stories that was very much about sort of, you know, the new restaurants and bars and condos and all of the folks sort of moving into Brooklyn, and it's becoming sort of like this global brand. And the other piece was that we really wanted to create a campaign that would engage a broader demographic of people around our work and volunteering and partnering with us and sort of just get the conversation going.
So Jodie, number one, thank you for helping to beautify the subway system.
Absolutely, this is my neighborhood.
Thank you.
And of all the people with enough to do, you got all those kids, you're working, like, why did you decide to be a part of this campaign and donate your time?
Well, exactly for that reason. I'm a mother of 5. All of my children go to school in Brooklyn. I'm a part of this community. Communities are diverse, so there's economic diversity, religious diversity, cultural diversity, and I think that is what the village is made of, but you have to support it. And so I think if we are not supporting economic diversity and really protecting those that are less fortunate, then what are we saying for our other forms of diversity? How is the LGBT community being treated, and how are the different religions being treated? So I think what BCS does is to support the entire community, which I'm a part of. I don't see myself as a small section. I really feel rooted in the community, and that support is really essential to families.
And Damion, you kind of deal with clients and stories of poverty every day in your work. How does this sort of rapid gentrification that we kind of mentioned, how does it affect these people, and how are they kind of dealing with it?
Right. I mean, one of the central themes that we're trying to make sure we promote is to make sure that everyone has an opportunity to take advantage in this new Brooklyn Renaissance. I mean, the longtime residents, many of whom who do live below the poverty line, there are emerging economies developing right in front of them. And we want to make sure that they have the skills and the wherewithal to be able to participate. And as we all know, there is a transformative power in holding a job. There's a transformative power in education. And really our goal is to connect folks who are in somewhat more vulnerable positions to these resources, which will allow them to empower themselves and their families.
To make sure that rising tide lifts every ship.
Every boat,
So
every
we
boat.
see everything coming up around here. Make sure that everybody gets a piece of the new Brooklyn as it's
Absolutely.
coming. So why the subways then? Why is this a transit-centric campaign?
Because it's so central to everyone's life. You know, most of us take the subway every day, and we thought about the buses. We felt that we wanted people to sort of be able to walk up to it and sort of just really take it in. And I think it's very impactful. You know, the images are very impactful. I've watched people react to it. I've watched people stare at it. And it's really helped us in terms of just upping our numbers in terms of volunteerism.
Really?
We have a monthly volunteer orientation at BCS, and it's been packed to capacity for the past 2 years.
This is what you do.
Yeah, and we always ask people, how did you find out about BCS? They most of the time mention that they saw us on the subway platforms. And it's really helped in terms of partnering with other organizations, cultural institutions, faith-based communities. So, and we've been able to sort of really bring the community together through, community events and things like that. So it's been great for us.
In what other ways are those volunteers kind of dealing with clients and, helping out and getting everyone to be a part of this One Brooklyn? I mean, how, what sort of initiatives is the BCS helping out in order to kind of get everyone to be happy in Brooklyn as best they can?
Absolutely. Well, we run several different employment programs for young people through senior citizens. One of the things that we're often connecting with our volunteer department, we will often set up events. We've set up networking events in the past. In other words, we want to help our residents and our clients develop these sort of 21st century skills that they're going to need to be competitive. So being able to network, being able to sort of deliver an elevator pitch, being able to sort of have the wherewithal to understand that there are resources in front of you and how to go about getting them. So we're often bringing in our volunteers to conduct resume writing workshops, network, mock interview prep, just to sort of get them ready for the next opportunity.
So Jodie, I want to go back to you and ask, with the busy life that so many of us have just to stay afloat, how do you find time to work in like volunteering and stuff? Because people might see the thing and be inspired and say, well, I would like to get involved, but I got this thing and that thing. How do you find the carve out to actually get in action?
I mean, if I can carve out time with 5 kids and 2 businesses and I'm writing a book, then we can make time. It's a part of our job. I mean, I think all we have is community. And so if you only wait until the crisis happens, you're not left with much. So you can volunteer in the morning, right before you go to work, instead of going to the gym once a week. You can volunteer at night. I do a lot of my work after my kids go to bed between midnight and 2 or 3 in the morning. And I know it sounds crazy, but you can do once a week.
Yeah.
And you can push the limit a little bit instead of going to dinner late. You just volunteer, because I think it really makes a difference. And I want to stress how, if you take the A train, and you'll see my poster on the A train, it looks like the world, right? You have everybody from all over the world riding that A train, and this is the diversity in Brooklyn. It looks like a hub for international visitors, but really there's a culture that needs to be nourished, and there are the roots that need to be taken care of, and this campaign is a call to action. However you can do it, whenever you can do it, you got to do it.
Well, this panel's been kind of a call to action to me personally. Sonya, before we run out of time, when are you holding another one of these meetings for new volunteers?
We hold them the second Wednesday of every month, like clockwork. They start at 5:30. They go until 6:30. It's a diversity of from students to professionals. It's wonderful because you get to learn all about our many programs, because I didn't sort of mention we have like over 40 programs out of 25 sites in Brooklyn. So there's a lot that people can do, from our urban garden, reading to children, the mock interviews. There's a breadth for people of many different interests.
So we know BCS has been around for more than a century. How's the fight changed in that time? Because the poverty that we're facing now is different than what poverty was even considered 100 years ago.
You're right. I mean, the thing is that at the time when BCS was founded, we, over I would say the first 100 years, developed some of the most cutting-edge social service programs, from like the first kindergarten to the first boys' home. We were impactful around influenza, TB, polio. Then fast forward to 9/11 and Hurricane Sandy. I would say that in terms of our work, our major focus would be education, providing educational support for children in early education, our after-school programs. We actually have a teacher in all of our elementary after-school programs. So we provide many more hours of academic support to young people, and then all of the youth-related programs as well, providing leadership training and youth development skills. And so I would say that children and youth are the central focus of our work right now, although we still have a lot of programs for people with mental illness and developmental disabilities, which was really the hallmark of our work when we were founded.
Gotcha. All right, so we're completely out of time, but we always have time for you to get the word out about how people can get involved.
Well, first of all, go to our website. It's wearebcs.org. You can volunteer with us. We certainly love donations. We have a number of public events coming up. A Youth Action Summit, Damion will be speaking at. We've got a really exciting panel that's going to be held in February. There'll be more information about that. This is, again, our 150th anniversary, so there'll be a lot of community events and activities happening.
Well, 150 years later, we can see where the money went. So giving season is upon us.
Exactly.
Kick some checks over to BCS.
Exactly. Thank you for that plug.
We'll see you. Yes. Thank you very much.